All right, well, we're back in Japan. So I'm going to try and do some of these video updates from time to time. So we'll call this episode 1, and we'll see how many episodes we get, but we'll call this one Back in Morioka. So as many of you guys know, we've been telling you, if you've been following us while we were in the States, we're getting ready to come back to Japan to be involved in a church plant in Miyako, which is a different city. Morioka is the city where we were based before we went back to the States. So we've been in Morioka for about 5 years. We were living here, and we've been working with this church. I'm sitting in the church building right now filming this. It's empty. It's on a Monday late afternoon, so nobody's here. So hopefully I won't get anyone coming in while I'm recording. But yeah, so it's been really great being back. We're here for a couple of weeks while we wait for some things to get in order before we can move down to our house in Miyako, which actually we found out that the house is now open. So they're doing some repairs and getting it ready for us. And hopefully within a couple of weeks, maybe in about 2 more weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks, we're going to be able to move down there. But just to start off, some of the things that have been really encouraging since we've been back, it's been great kind of reconnecting with the church and seeing old friends and people that we haven't seen in a while, seeing the kids that have all gotten bigger in the last year. And yeah, it's been really wonderful to see, especially how some people have grown in their faith. Just a lot of encouraging stuff happening. I talked about some of that in the last newsletter, but just a couple of things. So so a couple of encouraging things. So one of the fun things is we showed up at church our first Sunday, and we met our life insurance salesman. Our life insurance agent was there, and he's not a Christian, but about a little bit over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when we were actually in the process of signing up for our life insurance through him, he had a stroke, and he was in the hospital for many months and had to go through a lot of rehab. Had a kind of a real near-death experience, but it turns out that he gets all of his business through word of mouth. So he was actually recommended to us by our pastor, who was also had also recommended another pastor in the area. So on his client list, he had 2 pastors and a missionary. And after he got out of the hospital and started coming back around, he decided to check out church, and he got really interested. So he's not a Christian, but he's been coming faithfully to church every Sunday. He started attending a new Bible class that the church started putting on to learn more about Christianity. So definitely be praying for him. It's just really encouraging to see that. Another really encouraging thing that we came back and there was one person we were hoping to see but didn't see, and we were a little worried at first. There was a lady who had come to our English classes that we put on with the help of some interns last summer. So not this past summer, the one before, just before we came back to the U.S. And one of the interns from Texas had been teaching this lady English, and after the English class, she started coming to English Cafe. She started coming to the church service and really was interested in wanting to learn more about Christianity, and even expressed a desire to become a Christian. She'd started to get more involved in the church and was kind of a seeker. We had to go back to the States, so we couldn't really follow up and see how that was going. But when we came back, we didn't see her, and so we were a little worried at first that maybe she had kind of moved on or lost interest. But when we asked about it, turns out she had actually moved to another prefecture, so about an hour and a half away. But when she moved over to that prefecture, she got connected with another church. It's a sister church of ours. And the pastor there recently baptized her. She became a Christian. She became a member of the church. She got baptized. So that was just really encouraging to hear that. And that's, I think, one of the first times we've had of like someone who actually became a Christian through one of the ministries that we kind of led and were involved in. And it was just so great to be able to work with the guys from Texas that came out, and I know they'd be really encouraged to hear about that. So that was really encouraging as well. Also, kind of some of the other things that have been going on since we've been back. We've been having some good meetings to talk about the church plant that's coming up. So we met with Kat and with Pastor Kondo, and we had one good meeting talking about just some of the stuff about the relationship between the missionaries and the church, and trying to get some sort of groundwork stuff taken care of, and it seemed like we were largely on the same page with that, so that was really encouraging. We had a chance to join the church's Kaitaku Inkai, which is the church planting committee meeting, and kind of hear what different people from the church were thinking. They've been putting together a little newsletter in Japanese every month to inform the church about what's been going on, and we suggested that they also start doing kind of like a monthly prayer meeting, so it seems like that's going to come together, so we're really encouraged that people from the church will be able to meet and pray for us on a regular basis, and pray for the church plant and their times with that. We had a chance to just get lunch with some other people that are kind of considering, whether they might be a part of the church plant in the future. So that was an encouraging time as well. So just a lot of good, it's been really good to be back in Morioka, because we had a lot of these connections, and before we moved down to Miyako, there's a lot of things we had to get in order. One last thing that is still in process that we really need to prayer for is Tomo's immigration status. So as many of you know, she became a U.S. citizen when we were in the U.S., but doing that meant that she lost her Japanese citizenship, and so ironically she needs to get a Japanese visa, whereas me and the kids we're fine, because I still have my visa from the previous time is still valid. The kids are dual citizen, but now she doesn't have a visa, and we made a couple of mistakes with the process of applying for that. The biggest one being that she used her Japanese passport when coming into Japan, and even though we asked the immigration official at the airport, which one she should use, and he said, yeah, use the Japanese one. Turns out that she was not allowed to do that, which raised some red flags. So she's actually has an immigration hearing down in Sendai, so it's the major city in our area. It's about 2 hours away. We don't have the appointment for that yet. From what we've heard and talking to the immigration officials here, at this point it's mostly just a formality. She's going to have to go down there mostly to get a signature from a higher up guy. It still sounds scary, because there is, technically the path that she's on could lead to her getting deported, but they've assured us that doesn't seem like that'll happen at all. They don't seem to be very worried about it, so we're trying not to be worried about it. We're making plans to continue on with everything. So yeah, but please be praying for that. That hearing will go well, that it will be as smooth as we had hoped that it would be. Some of the other things that have been going on, I got some video clips that I took while we were here. I'll show you guys some of that as well as I'm talking. But I was able to go to English Cafe, so that was really good to see how that's been doing. So that was a ministry that we were leading before we left for the States, and I turned it over to a friend of ours here. She's an English teacher. She's from Singapore. So she's been leading she attends our church, and she kind of took over the English Cafe, leading it. So I got to sneak in and be a participant, and there were so many new people. I was actually greeted at the door by one of the new students who was helping with the check-in, and she was asking me if this was my first time being there. But it was just so cool to see that she had gotten so involved in the cafe. She wanted to be helping with actually running it. So she was taking a part of that. She'd become one of the new regulars, and I saw a lot of familiar faces as well. So just really encouraged to see how well that ministry is going, and it seems like it's doing even better than when we were here. When I came and participated, it was really fun. Again, I got to be just a participant for kind of the first time. Normally I'm kind of having to run around, and I don't always get as much of a chance to talk to people. But this time I got to talk with some of the new people, and it was all in English, so that was made it a little bit easier. But yeah, they were curious about Christianity. I even got to share a little bit of kind of a basic gospel message, and they were really encouraged about that. And I think more interested in the English, but also very interested in they had no real experience with Christianity before, and I think a lot of times Japanese are curious about it, but they don't know who to ask or how to bring it up. So it was kind of an easy segue for that. So I'm hoping that those two girls I was able to talk with will come back to future English cafes, or maybe even come to one of the church services or other events, things like that. Some other cool news, Titus, he's entered first grade, so we're really debating whether to go ahead and put him into first grade here in Morioka for the few weeks that we're here, or just continue homeschooling him until we got down to Miyako. But we decided that we might as well give it a shot and see how he does, and it's a little bit easier for him to go to school here. We got him enrolled in class, and it turns out a lot of the kids in his class were from the same kindergarten and preschool that he went to. His best friend from church is in the same class as him, so he's got a lot of friends there. And I kind of feel like, if he can sort of do a little bit of elementary school here for a few weeks, he'll sort of get a reset when we go to Miyako. So he'll have some of an idea of what the schedule and everything looks like. He's having a little bit of a hard time his first week, especially with the Japanese. His Japanese is not as good as it was before, so he has a hard time understanding the instructions in class and the teaching material. So it'll take him a while to get back up to speed with that. Academically, he's okay with like the math and with actually the amount of kanjis he needs to read and that sort of stuff. He seems to be doing fairly well, but he always comes home a little bit confused. So be praying for him as he goes through that. We were also able to take a trip down to Miyako. We met with our landlord and got everything straightened out. She even mentioned that it would probably be fine for us to do some kinds of activities there, which we're a little bit nervous about that. Sometimes landlords can be, they can not be too open to having their house used for religious activities. So we're probably not going to be able to use it to like actually start like a house church in the building. That would probably be pushing it a little bit. We couldn't advertise that there was a church meeting in this house. But as far as having the weekly gatherings there from time to time, it shouldn't be any problem. We'll probably be hosting a lot of guests and doing a lot of hospitality. Again, we're thinking about maybe doing the English cafe. We've got a lot of ideas. So it was good to kind of get some permission to use the house for some of those things. And I don't know if she completely understood what we were asking, but she seemed pretty easygoing, so it was encouraging. We might have to get some further confirmation on that. But so far, that was kind of an encouraging conversation as well. Another really encouraging thing was we went and visited the Yochien, which is like a preschool / kindergarten in Miyako that we're hoping that Felicity can go to. And we had talked to them about a year ago before we left and asked if she could, if it would be possible for her to kind of enter in the middle of the year, because it's the middle of the school year here. School year here runs from April to March, so we're like right in the middle of it. And they said usually in the middle of the year they're full, so you got to register for the next year. Is what they said would probably happen. But we went and talked to them, and they said they were full, but they just had one student who left this month in Felicity's age group. And so they had one opening, and they said she could have it, and so we're in the process of enrolling her for that. So that was a big praise as well. So it's been really encouraging to see just so many ways that God has kind of been preparing the way for us. Everything seems to be falling into place. We've even begun to purchase some of the things that we raised funds for. So those of you who participated in the Miyako fundraiser, I'll be giving some updates on that, but we're already getting a head start on purchasing some of the things that we need to do ministry out of our home. So that's really exciting. And hopefully we'll be moving down there in about 2 weeks. And that's mostly depending on how the immigration thing goes. So we're hoping that that'll be completely taken care of and we don't have to worry about it anymore before the move. There is a chance it could drag on afterwards. So definitely be in prayer for that. But that'll wrap up our first update. So thank you guys for your prayers. It's been great being here for the last 2 weeks, and I'll check in with you again in a little bit and kind of share what else is going on. But if we have a YouTube channel. These are also probably going to be posted on Facebook, so please check out our YouTube channel and subscribe to that if you guys do the whole YouTube thing. But otherwise, keep checking your email and keep checking on Facebook for more updates. As always, we love to hear how you're doing, and if you have any questions, feel free to either leave a comment or send us an email, however you're watching this. We'd love to hear from you and talk about what's going on. But it's been great being back, and we thank you for sending us back and for praying for us. And we'll check in. We'll see you guys next time.